And welcome back to the final part, part 4 of What If Deku had a Zanpakuto, the Ichimonji edition. Why is it the last part? Because when you have an ability that essentially erases concepts, you kind of bust the universe a little bit. Especially when your universe doesn't deal in that kind of power. So, real quick though, a question did get brought up that when I did the video, I wasn't actively thinking about. But it actually is a really good question. If Mirio did get One for All prior to the overhaul scenario, and he got hit with the quirk erasing bullet, well, does that erase One for All? And there's two halves of my brain on this. One is, yes, it's a quirk. It should erase it, right? But we've seen that One for All, specifically One for All, is a unique case when it comes to the stealing of it, to getting rid of it, to the erasure of it, all that. We've never seen like the quirk erasing bullet used against it, obviously, so we can't know this for a fact or for sure. But we know for a fact that because the vestiges, the parts of the souls of the original users and their quirks are in the quirk itself, in the quirk's core, the factor of it, that in times in peril and need, they can come to do like psychic resistance and psychic protection. That's how Midoriya didn't get his quirk stolen by Shigaraki when he that time around during the Para-Liberation attack, when Shigaraki awoke early. That's how they stopped that. And then obviously he gave up his quirks one by one, and gave up One for All to basically crack at the psyche of Shigaraki. So I'm going to say this. I personally think it would actually act something along those lines. Where, especially if Mirio has been training out to activate a couple of the extra quirks of One for All, that either his base quirk disappears. In fact, that might actually be the big thing. Because he's got 2 quirks, only one of those quirks might disappear. And maybe One for All kind of redirects it to the permeation part of his quirk, or the permeation quirk he has. And so even though he has to sacrifice that, he still keeps One for All. That's how I could rationalize it anyway. And maybe Eri, is able to kind of rewind, because we know she eventually rewinds his, in fact, far enough to get his quirk back. So maybe down the road, Eri is still able to get his quirk back. That's how I see it, but let me know if you disagree on that, because with One for All, something that involves getting rid of a quirk in any capacity is a little bit of a gray area. But anyway, we would move over to the joint training, the team training exercise. I always just kind of love these versus arcs where it's like, oh, this, team that. That's why I love the Dark Tournament. You get characters and cool fights. That's why I like the tuning exams preliminaries a lot. That's why, Dragon Ball tournaments are fun. Tournament arcs are just fun. So they square off. Now, Bakugo's attitude towards Midoriya probably has softened, but it's still not as gray as it should be. Specifically because he doesn't have he doesn't have One for All. He doesn't know about it. No one does, except for Mirio, All Might, all that. Beyond that, Midoriya fighting off, Midoriya wouldn't show up or have anything to do until the final fight, where, he's flying around, well, not flying around, but he's, running around. Obviously, Monoma tries to take his ass out, but Deku just creates his ink and just blocks it, creating, rebound effects. Him using telekinesis, Midoriya is just, they're kind of just bouncing things back. Eventually, he would like bypass the telekinesis as he just kind of wraps up Monoma. Even though they try to attack him, he, again, activating his quirk, can either bind people down. In fact, that's probably what he does ultimately to Monoma. After he gets the ink on him, he just writes the kanji for bind, and he's like, I can't move. He's like, you're gonna stay right there. I might not be able to get you right now, but I'll get you when the time's right. And so then obviously him and Shinso would do their best, fight it out. He actually might even mimic Black Whip by just creating tendrils of ink and just boom. Keep in mind, he's never bringing his paintbrush with him. He's never bringing Ichimonji around for the actual against his actual like classmates. He's not using that power against them because he doesn't want to kill them, for God's sake. He doesn't want to erase a part of them. That's just horrifying. So Midoriya, it would struggle somewhat, but ultimately his class 1A would win. Going down the road, when we eventually do get to, Shigaraki waking up, Mirio is ultimately going after, Shigaraki's going after Mirio, who would be pretty powerful. Like, he would probably be spending a lot of time just training. He'd probably be farther along than Midoriya is. And so their fight would ultimately begin. I imagine he is farther along with his actual quirks. Like, he's got Smoke Screen, he's got Float, he's got Black Whip. He might even have Danger Sense at this. Did I say Danger Sense at this point? Sorry, I meant to say Danger Sense, but he probably has maybe the first 4. But again, we know Fajin and Gear Shift. The users didn't want to immediately give it to Midoriya because they didn't feel he was in the right headspace to do it. And I have a feeling with Mirio, who's even more idealistic, arguably, than Midoriya is, that might be the case. Although he doesn't have the personal relationship with Shigaraki here. They square off, and they're duking it out for a while. However, now Midoriya has Ichimonji on him. And so Bakugo tries to help out. Doesn't really go his way. Midoriya, who doesn't have the ability to fly in this version, it struggles to get there in time as Mirio is struggling hard, keeping Shigaraki, maybe breaking his bones. It's going a lot the same way, including Aizawa's quirk being negated. Until Midoriya basically gets on the field and is like, hey, you! It's like, oh, it's you. You're that kid who wiped out Nomu. And so he just kind of crashed down. Well then, perhaps I should show you what I can do when perhaps I don't need the Nomus anymore. You want to see what I can do otherwise? And all of a sudden it starts to decay and just like, block it, Ichimonji! And just, and like the ink just hits the ground. And he it just takes the name away for its name away, but it's not enough to do anything. But just, I've learned my lesson. I learned my lesson by watching you deal with Nomu. I'm not going to let you hit me with that. No, that's not happening whatsoever, kid. To which Mirio then comes in. It's like, you. And all of a sudden he steps off the ground. He grabs Midoriya. Midoriya, got you. No. And he breaks Mirio. Just only gets slapped with the ink. Just. It's like, now, we know that with Stars and Stripes, there was a loophole with the one known to Shigaraki won't move or his heart will stop. But because All For One was kind of acting up in Shigaraki at the time, his identity was up in the air, so it was a loophole. The problem here simply comes down to the fact that even if that erased Shigaraki's name and One For All basically just came out, which I'm not sure if that would actually work or not, because All For One basically kind of had to die. I don't know if I really did like the end of My Hero, all things considered, and even the epilogue I thought was fine. Maybe we need a little bit more, but whatever. And we still need to know Midoriya's dad and all that. The fact they never showed that pisses me off. But it is a little up in the air. For example, if Shigaraki had been pushed to the limit like he was originally, but All For One was still alive, would the Demon King personality actually come out of Shigaraki? And would you essentially have 2 All For Ones for a while? I don't see why not. I mean, it's more or less that there's a portion of his soul, like the vestige of him is in there. Actually, yeah, it makes sense because that's essentially the vestige of his quirk coming in. It's his personality and soul. So yeah, so it's possible that that he comes as seems you've allowed my release, but this is too early. No, Shigaraki isn't primed yet, and I don't have One For All. Well then, we'll have to meet again another. And then Midoriya just see, that's the thing. As he's modeling, and just ink hits him. It's like, yeah, I don't know who you are, because he just hits him with the ink again. Because Yuaba was able to override the ability of Ichimonji with the Almighty. Which I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, yeah, I get why the Almighty should override it, But they never explain it like why the Almighty came out after the ink got splashed, because he's not Yuaba anymore. Therefore, all of his abilities should be gone, including his ability to awaken the Almighty, right? But I don't know. I guess that when you're dealing with conceptual ideas, then it starts to get a little tricky. So basically, Midoriya just has to hit him twice with the brush. And Midoriya might at first be like, why is it, what? What do you mean? What's going on? It's like, well, hit him again, young Midoriya. Or Ichimonji's like, I've seen this before. A separate entity. He has two identities, therefore two names, Midoriya. You know what that means. Double tap him. And you see Ichimonji be like, he's like, I will not disappear. And so maybe he doesn't get hit by the ink. Maybe he disappears, F's off, tries to steal stars and strides. Essentially, you get him instead of Shigaraki. Shigaraki's sadly gone. It still takes a little time for him to, recover. But ultimately, Midoriya is there on the battlefield where, Shigaraki shows up. The Demon King shows up. And Midoriya's like, no, I've had enough of this. It's like, I'm going to stop you no matter what. Boy, you're not the one who interests... Your power is great, boy, but you're not the one who interests me. And it's like, I will not... If you think I'm going to let you hit me with that ink again, you're sadly mistaken. And all of a sudden, he just plants the brush in the ground. It's like, It's like, no, I'm not. I'm not. My job is to be a hero. It's and that means and a hero doesn't kill no matter what. But you've probably. But and I'm not gonna. So let me rephrase that. It's like I'm Ichimonji. Sorry. There we go. Ichimonji Bleach. And so he basically says is that my power is the power over names. I promise that I'm going to, and I promise to protect the name of everyone on the planet, even the villains. You're something beyond a villain. You're a monster, one for all, or all for one. It's like, and your point. So in order to protect everyone else's name, I'm gonna erase yours. Do you think you can? I thought you said a hero doesn't kill. And so, to which Midoriya suddenly just pulls out the dish, if anyone knows Ichimonji, and just pours ink to it, and then you go, it's like, and everyone's just like, what? I'm not gonna kill you one for all, or all for one. And so then he puts his hands together and basically, he destroys the incantation. Oh, twilight and everlasting darkness, come to me, come and have a drink. And once you do, your life will fade. The flowers will bloom along the road to hell. There are the fish, let me paint them black. Cut them into 8 and cook them atop a flame of black. Then enjoy the meal. I can't remember exactly how they say. It's like no. Enjoy. Then enjoy the meal. All that's left are bones of white. Make them a gravestone and pay respect. May they never be born again, so that you won't be sacrificed as food. And so all of a sudden, and he just puts it again, he chants, dances around, and then recites the name Futin Tatsai Studio. And then everyone just, and even all for one Chikot, and there is the black mausoleum with gravestones. And it's like, I told you, I'm not going to kill you all for one. I'm simply just going to erase you from existence. And Midoriya basically has to make that choice. Like, technically speaking, he could have tried to erase the name again, but given the fact it didn't work the first time, even though given the special circumstances, he's not taking the chance. Like, he's got to make that sacrifice. Like, and sure enough, tries to stop him. All of his attacks just get sucked into this black void of this mausoleum grave. This technique peels my power is over names, but the power comes from black. This will rob the world of Seven Knights a couple hundred years from now, but it's necessary. And he basically just Says, I'm going to tear the black off of black from here. I'm going to tear the black off that ass. The white guy saying that. But no, he's going to tear the black off your bones, off your muscles, your bones, your blood, your organs, everything, even your very soul. You will never reincarnate. You will be erased from this world. He starts trying to get away, trying to warp out, but he's getting pulled away. What are you? Why did I not know of this quirk? A quirk like this is something I should have had. No, he just sees the look on him, and it's not even anger, it's just sorrow. Like, sorrow, you forced me to do this. It's like, just nothing's left and gone. And Midoriya's like, and everyone just looks at us like, yeah, I know. And he's now kind of just like, I know, I'm not fit to be a hero after this. And all the other villains are kind of handled, including All For One, who Bakugo eventually handles on his own. Who, admittedly, no, Bakugo might not handle him on his own, because this version of Bakugo would be fine to, like, he wouldn't be, like, dying. So therefore, he hasn't really activated his quirk, like, or awakened his quirk. But still, even... All For One probably senses the death of Sugar's like, that's not possible. As he's starting to fail, no. I just need to give someone else my quirk. That's what I need. I need to give someone else, even if it's just a copy. I need to find someone. And then, that's when, Bakugo maybe they all show up to surround him. And Mirio, just being the one for all recipient, just boom, ends him. And so puts him in the ground and just, no! So the day is saved, but at what cost? Because honestly, I think Midoriya quits being a hero and just stays a teacher. Like, he understands, like, I don't deserve to be called a hero after doing that. A hero doesn't do what I did. But a hero has to make the hard choices, don't they, Midoriya? That's why you did what you did, right? I mean, we're not going to judge you for it. No, but I judge me for it. And that's why, still, and it's important that I can take that lesson and then pass it forward, teach it to the next generation. Meanwhile, Mirio is in a, like, while we know he becomes the number one hero. I mean, what would his lifespan be? I mean, the fourth user of One For All, if I remember correctly, Danger Sense user, he only lived to be in his 40s, which means Nana, N was his name, and Banjo, man, they weren't going to make it to, like, 30. So I think, but again, I think they all recognize too that no, we can still figure something out here. And I'm sure Mirio got his quirk back from Eri, by the way. So we can still figure something out, as they figured out that All Might, because he was quirkless, was able to keep it, and someone without a quirk is able to really hold on to One For All. So he probably actually found his next successor pretty quick. So while his lifespan got shortened, it probably wasn't to a supreme detriment. Like, I mean, let's say hypothetically he was going to live to the ripe old age of 80 originally, like his natural lifespan, and he probably would have been cut down to at best 30. The middleman, I think he lives to 50. I think that's a reasonable, especially because they probably didn't have the quirk for very long. Same with, like, Midoriya, but Midoriya also didn't have a quirk. Either way, like, he's already training his new successor with the quirk. I think Gran Torino is also there, kind of helping the next generation. Same with All Might. And all's well that ends well. And so that's the end of What If Midoriya had a Zanpakuto, the Ichimonji edition. I will put a poll up before I go to bed for the next 3 Dragon Ball Z What Ifs. Keep your eyes out on those. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Later.